on this Thursday to talk some football. He's on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. And fortunately for us, we did change Jeff's schedule because this big congressional inquiry, Jeff, into Daniel Snyder finished, and the report was released earlier today. Reading through the report, Jeff, what was the main takeaway that you had from it?
I think it confirmed a lot of issues that people believed about Dan Snyder and the way that he's run that Washington organization for quite a while right now. I mean, to allege that he suppressed complaints and workplace misconduct and all the things of the like, and under that umbrella, I mean, that's a terrible look for a leader of any organization, let alone one that's as public as the Washington Commanders.
For me, and honestly, Jeff, I couldn't read the whole thing. I just didn't have the time or the attention span for it. But my main takeaway was I knew Daniel Snyder was terrible, but the NFL was just letting him be terrible all this time. It seems like sometimes helping him be terrible at what he does.
Well, I think if as me and Nick go, back to Deflategate and a lot of things that have happened with the Patriots, at this point, you aren't skeptical about an NFL investigation. I think that's what the league is sort of, they deserve that reputation of outsiders like us being skeptical and wondering where their interests lie. And if they are culpable of it too, then, it sounds like the Congress has no problems going after the league as a whole.
Jeff Howe is with us. He's from The Athletic, NFL insider. Jeff joins us usually on Tuesdays at this time. He's joining us today instead. Let's wrap this thing up with Snyder. I got one more question for you, Jeff. Is there any way that you can see him being owner of the Commanders 6 months, a year from now?
If the sales draft out, if the paperwork takes a while to file. I think they've already kind of taken those steps, kind of searching for or putting the group together in order to sell the team. And I think we all know why they've taken those steps. That stuff is coming to light more and more as the weeks go by. So, if they don't voluntarily sell the organization, I think I would be shocked if there wasn't some more pressure coming from the league.
Is it as crazy as it sounds that Baker Mayfield may start, or at the very least see a significant amount of playing time 2 days after he signed with the Rams?
Yes, it is. It is crazy. Just because, you can't even put Tom Brady in a situation like this and expect him to be successful, but it's just a matter of need. John Wolford has the neck injury. The Rams weren't sure that he was going to be, how active he was going to be able to be, or if he was going to be active. He was basically a game time decision, seeing how that neck felt. And then we'll see what happens. This is a guy who has had some injuries over the course of his career. He takes an early hit, all of a sudden it could be Baker Mayfield's offense. And if this was a team that was, still in the running or even 500 or something like that, maybe you go with Bryce Perkins. But the reason, the upshot, I think, of bringing in Baker Mayfield is trying to evaluate him over the next 5 weeks, just to see if maybe he's in their plans as a potential backup / competition type of player going into next season. So, hey, throw him out there and see what's going on. Got there late Tuesday night. Unrealistic to think that he's going to know much of the playbook or much of the offense, really. It's going to be a pared down system if he does take the field. But, good first impression from what I understand out there.
Jeff Howe is with us. He's from The Athletic, of course. Like everybody who joins us is on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Another big news story today out of the NFL, Jeff, is Marcus Mariota. He's out as Atlanta's QB1. Desmond Ridder will take over. Does Ridder have a shot to win this gig for 2023?
Yeah, I think so, because this is that was, from what I understand, their preferred quarterback going into the draft. So they've liked him for quite a while. Just going into the season, Arthur Smith wanted to see what the competition was going to look like. And this was really always, Marcus Mariota was going to be the starter unless Desmond Ridder got to a point where it was clear that he was the better player. Now, I don't know what it looks like in practice, whether it's gotten to that point or if they've just decided they need to shake things up, because strangely enough, they are still sort of in it in the NFC South. So, I don't think this is – I do think that there is some merit based on this decision, and we'll see what Ritter's able to do. I mean, they're not a great team, but there are some pieces on that offense. Arthur Smith does know how to coach offense, so I'm really interested to see what they look like under Ritter.
Are we any closer to knowing where Odell Beckham Jr. will land, and wherever that is, when he'll be able to help that team?
Well, I thought Micah Parsons' comments that blew up earlier this week were really significant, that Odell told him that he was going to be cleared in about 5 weeks. Before he started this round of visits, people were pretty skeptical that it was going to be before December. Well, I guess at this point, the timetable is what it is. But like earlier in the season is what I'm saying. Like the very, very, very earliest they thought that he could be cleared was November. But even if he was cleared November, did that mean that how soon could he start playing games? You know, what does that clearance level look like? You guys are looking at it with Jimmy Garoppolo right now. Mm-hmm. There was that 7-week timeline, but 7 weeks doesn't necessarily mean that you can start playing in 7 weeks. So there are all these tiers to how quickly guys can come back from these certain injuries. If Odell is coming in, I think you're hard-pressed to think that he's going to be a valuable contributor anytime before the playoffs.
Jeff,
in terms of the decision, though, I've been trying to find out. I don't think anything really has been relayed to these teams that he is prepared to make a decision on an imminent basis.
Jeff Howe from The Athletic joining us here, Cattles and Rami on this Thursday. Jeff, will Bill Belichick address the offensive staff after this season is over, or is he too married to Matt Patricia and Joe Judge?
I would be stunned if there isn't some sort of shakeup. I wouldn't be surprised if that comes from ownership. And that's just speculation here on my part. But, I go back to March at the owners' meetings when Robert Kraft was very intentional in saying that he wasn't happy that the Patriots hadn't won a playoff game in 3 years. And, when Robert Kraft makes a statement in March at these meetings, there's always something behind it. So the Patriots are very unlikely to end that playoff drought this season, which means Kraft is going to be another year angrier or more frustrated, however you want to put it. And he has to have, because the offense didn't work and it's been way too inconsistent. You could argue whether or not Mac Jones has regressed or the people around him have failed him. Either way, that's a conversation that nobody thought that the Patriots should be having, let's say 9 months ago. So I think Kraft has to come in and say, find an offensive coordinator with actual offensive coordinator experience.
You brought up Jimmy G and the report that he doesn't need surgery and could at some point come back. Kyle Shanahan clarified that yesterday, said it's a way outside chance that happens. Let's say the way outside chance comes to fruition. I'd assume Brock Purdy did something good to get the 49ers to the divisional or the championship round. You just throw Jimmy G back in there after a 7-8 week layoff?
Well, if it's, I'll go with I'm not comparing the two situations. I'm just going to go with like the extreme example. Tom Brady in 2001. You usually don't lose your job based off injury, but you're right. If Brock Purdy gets these guys flying down the stretch, that would be a really hard decision for Shanahan to make. And if Garoppolo is perfectly healthy but like the offense is running fluidly, with how much talent is around him offensively and defensively, this is a team that has, if it was more of a sure thing at quarterback, like, a week ago when we're talking about Garoppolo being a quarterback, this is a team that is good enough to win the Super Bowl. So you want to make sure you maximize that opportunity no matter how you can. And if Brock Purdy is the answer, it's not a crazy thing to think about, but like if they are, let's say they go 3-2 over the next few weeks, the offense is fairly inconsistent, it's laborious, or you get a situation where you can tell, like, you get a game, one of those losses, you're down by 14 points, and all of a sudden you're scraping and clawing just to get yards, and Purdy is a guy that you can't rally from a multi-score deficit on, then yeah, it's a whole lot easier to just go to Garoppolo, who I think is going to do everything in his power. He did it this offseason. He's going to do everything in his power to make sure that he can get himself back on the field. I know he's dealt with a number of injuries over his career. That doesn't mean that he's not a tough guy. This is somebody who's going to want to be out there if he can.
His name's Jeff Howe. He's a gentleman. He's a scholar. He's a darn good reporter. Jeff, as always, man, we appreciate you. Have a great weekend, my friend.
Appreciate you guys being flexible with me this week. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, talk to you. There goes Jeff Howe on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. All right, I want to circle back to the interview we just had with